Many claim they like riding, but I know that they ain't. Ride or die. I go hard in the paint, yeah, homie, I'm a saint. Ride or die. Many claim they like riding, but I know that they ain't. They see the red and they call me a devil, but mind the treble, let me level with you. I used to idolize rappers that paint they face, but now I rock the blood of Christ ever since I've been saved by grace.
Now that's definitely not me singing, David. That's a friend of mine.
Come on, that was you, dude.
We go to this. It's called the Gathering of the Juggalos every year, and we pass out Crossman T-shirts like this one, and Fago, and Bibles, and
Do you get dressed up like juggalos when you go?
no. I have though at one point in my life I did have the face paint on once, but it's also from being a pro wrestling fan, I guess.
They've got a they got a song called "Miracles" that I heard years ago. Insane Clown Posse. It's how they're surrounded by miracles. It's pretty funny. Wasn't expecting that. I just clicked on it. I was like, "What the heck are they talking about? Miracles?" And they're talking about how everything around you is miraculous. Thought that was interesting. Anyway, that's yeah. You got to get painted up. You're going out there handing stuff out.
Well, the gentleman whose song that goes out there, he paints his face completely red. He calls it like the red face movement. Um, and that's kind of his thing. I'm like where they normally have the gatherings at recently is in Ohio, and I'm losing weight. I'm working on it, but a bigger guy in face paint in like 85 to 90-degree weather is just not good.
That's true. That's true. I can sympathize on that one.
So I watched a debate you just had, um, and where you were teaming up with Holy Humanist versus Finding Truth in Muhammad.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Nuria's an ex-Muslim. She's an atheist ex-Muslim, but yeah, James from Modern Day Debate messaged me and he said, "Hey, we want to do a 2-on-2. Would you partner up with Nuria?" I was like, "Well, we're on the same side of that issue, so sure."
yeah, when I was watching that, one of the things that I thought was just so interesting was just like the dynamic and then the back and forth between you and her, and then how like you guys kind of played off each other, and like she would tee something up, and then you would hammer it home. Do you like enjoy like the two-person debates, or is it more like you'd rather have them one-on-one?
Um, I mean, in general, I prefer one-on-one, unless you really like if it's me and like I did 2-on-2 debates with Nabil, but me and Nabil had known each other for years, so we very naturally sort of bounce off each other while we're talking and stuff like that. Um, and then like AP I've known for a while, so I don't have any problem there. But no, I mean Nurio was fine. There wasn't a lot of planning. We basically chatted before the debate, and I said, "Hey, there's two broad categories of information here. There's the stuff that involves, how the Quran views women and how the Quran views unbelievers. So that the easiest way to divide it up would be topically. So if you wanted to pick a topic, whatever you feel strongest in, I'll take the other info. And so we divided up like that, and we rolled. But no, that was cool. Worked well. But that was fine, and that worked well. And I've done again debates with 2-on-2 with other people. What you're concerned about is someone who's just going to be on a totally different page and be using and you see that more on the Muslim side. Like you saw Ahmed and I think the other guy's name was Muhammad there, but they're like very different sort of personality types. Like Ahmed is nice and friendly, and Muhammad's angrier. And I don't have a problem with it. I get it. I get it either way, right? If we're talking about your prophet in your book, I understand you getting angry, so I'm not upset about that. But as far as them being a team, you're sort of giving off very, very different vibes there. One's like sort of angry and ticked off, and the other one's like friendly. And we saw the same thing with Perfect Dawah and Nadir have teamed up, and probably Perfect Dawah and some other people. But Perfect Dawah is like nice and friendly, and Nadir is, of course, Nadir. Nadir's in his own category as far as personality types. But yeah, so no, I mean, I'm totally happy with all the 2-on-2 debates that I've ever done. It's always worked out well. We've always meshed well so far, so that's cool.
Yeah, you mentioned Nabil. When I read his book, I didn't put the two and two together that you were his friend David. Like it just, even I had watched some of your videos on YouTube and it just didn't click. Because I think it was mainly I saw some Islamic apologetics, but I think it was like I didn't get to see the earlier stuff that you guys worked on together.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we actually, yeah, at first, I mean, we started our blog before we were ever on YouTube. We started a blog together. We started two ministries together. First, we were like apologetics ministries. Back then, you're just going and speaking at churches and stuff. But yeah, first we were called Anastasis Apologetics. So Anastasis is the Greek word for resurrection. So we're calling ourselves that, and we got sick of trying to explain how to spell it when people are trying to write it down and stuff. So we're like, we need to change this. And I even remember we were at my wife's parents' house, so my in-laws' house, and we're just sitting there in front of a computer going, we need to think of a new name, man. And we're just thinking through names. And we're like, how about a Bible verse or Bible chapter or something like this. And so we settled on Acts 17. But it was actually it was during all the stuff that was happening with Dearborn. And then all of a sudden, if you were scheduled to go speak at certain churches were fine with it. Like, oh, these are the guys, getting getting arrested in Dearborn for the myth was that we were harassing Muslims instead of we were the ones being harassed. But the myth was that we were there harassing Muslims and so on. And so all of a sudden, when you were invited to speak at a college campus or something like that, suddenly they're saying, "We're sorry, guys, we can't have you. We can't have you come and speak when you're in the newspaper for doing this or that or something." Even though, again, we're there to talk to people and make sure people's rights aren't being trampled on. Other than that, we would end up getting in good conversations with people, even if they were coming to us and they were hostile. Then we would try to diffuse the situation, get into a regular conversation, and so on. So, but you found out that because you were doing this one thing, because you're over here doing this, being a counter jihadist, responding to jihad, and so on, that people didn't think of you as an apologist or something like that to come and discuss those kinds of issues. And so we were at my apartment in the Bronx, and we were discussing this, and Nabil's talking about he's like it's hard to go out and speak on apologetics right now or evangelism or something like that, because we're becoming known for being counter jihad types. And I said, and I believe I was totally right. I said, I believe you can go in either direction and eventually get to a point where you can do both. But I said, as far as right now, when people don't know, yeah, whatever they hear about us first, that's going to be their impression of who we are. And I said, so you need to figure out what is most important to you. I said, if you would rather be doing apologetics, apologetics and evangelism on college campuses, talking to college students, things like that, you should probably separate from this stuff. A matter of fact, back then then we should probably separate that stuff and go off in that direction. But if you think, oh, okay, well, there are tons of people doing apologetics. There are tons of people doing apologetics and evangelism. Not a lot of people doing, dealing with Islam and criticizing Muhammad. So if you think that's more important, then you might just need to give up. For a while on, might need to understand the fact that you're not going to be invited on college campuses and so on, and not going to be invited to the same churches. And so it was kind of, we might need to, we might need to pick. And then, we're just sitting there talking. We realize, one could go in one direction, one could go another. Because my theory, which again, I believe is correct, was if you go hard enough in the apologetics direction and you are eventually, a global speaker and so on, then you can start talking about Muhammad and jihad and so on. And well, guess what? Everyone knows you. They trust you by now. They don't think you're some horribly mean person. And the theory was, if you go hard enough, dealing with Muhammad and so on, that people who are concerned about that are going to be your following, but you eventually start, you eventually get through to them with apologetics and so on. And so I felt you could go in either direction, but for a while it's going to be difficult at first because you're going to be stuck in one category or the other. So we were sitting there chatting, and we basically decided one of us will go in one direction, one will go in the other, and we'll go hard in both directions. And so that's when we split up, and he went off and did his thing. But it was cool because it was actually true. So he went around speaking around the world for years, and then eventually came out with his book on jihad. And he felt free by that point to talk about Muhammad and his problems with Muhammad and so on. And so yep, those were yep, yeah. So that was it's all worked out. Like I mean, apart from Nabil getting cancer and stuff like that, but as far as how the world works, that's a good principle for people to adopt. Pick something and then do it well, and then eventually you'll be able to do other stuff that you want to do.
I think that's good advice for anybody trying to do ministry. Like you can dig into systematic theology, you can dig into the Bible, how it was put together, you can dig into the Greek or the Hebrew language. But if you can do all that and maybe get a little understanding in each, but you're not necessarily a master in any, like you're not focusing. But if you dial in on one subject and you do that well, and you push that for the gospel, then eventually you'll be able to share the gospel through other avenues, like you were saying, like other things that interest you.
And you can sort of expand as human beings change over time. My interests, as far as what I study on my own, change like every couple of years. Like I'll get interested into psychology for a couple of years, and I'll be reading a bunch of psychology stuff and taking classes and stuff, and then it'll switch and I'll be interested in something else and so on. Always been interested in apologetics and philosophy. But yeah, I mean, lots of people are thinking that in order to get started, they have to know everything, right? If you want to be an apologist or you want to be a critic of Islam or something like that, that you have to know all this stuff. And no, pick one thing, learn it well, learn one thing, one argument, even pick a particular argument, or pick a certain topic within Islam and learn that topic well. And it's not hard. I mean, so you notice I recently reposted a video I made. I don't remember when, year and a half, 2 years ago or something like that. But the topic, I mean, the video is titled something like every Quran verse that mentions the gospel or something like that. And it was meant because people are always thinking, oh, if I use Surah 5 verse 47, which commands Christians to judge by the gospel, Muslims are going to bring up all these other verses that maybe say the gospel's been corrupted and I'm not going to know what to say and so on. So I just made a video. Look, here's every single verse in the Quran that mentions the gospel. And we'll read every single one of these verses in context, so you know exactly what it's talking about. Notice that's a situation where you could watch one video, take down some notes, and you could use that for the rest of your life, because there are 1.6 billion Muslims who think that the Quran says the gospel's been corrupted. So you could actually spend your entire life trying to show Muslims what the Quran actually says about the gospel. Now, notice that's something that would take you half an hour to see what the sources say. And then you jot down the notes, and you could just do that. I'm not saying just do that. I'm saying it's like that, and that you could learn one little bit of information, one argument, one point, and just keep using that over and over again, because there are people around the world, and right now you have access not just to the people in your neighborhood or in your area, but you have access to people around the globe. And so I don't know, we're Christians, we're a body, so it's good if the hand is doing this and the foot's doing that, and we all sort of divide up the work.
Yeah, because I've often thought about that. Like, um, as we get more Christians online, as we're doing more counter apologetics, addressing atheism, addressing Islam, is just getting everybody to kind of get their foot in the door. And like, if you specialize in this and I specialize in that, like you were saying, then we can complement each other. And then eventually we can talk about each other's topics. But when you dial down, you've got something kind of to bring to the table, which has always been something like, because I have dyslexia, like, um, struggled throughout high school, struggled through all that. So, like, when I read the Bible, I read it, but I also have audio. And
Mhm.
so every like hard copy book I have an audio version as well. That way, can just keep driving it in and then sticking it in my brain. That way, I can pull this out and then I can use it. Because everything I do is ultimately to try to benefit the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I think sometimes that's, hard, but it's just taking that step.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's uh, there are multiple factors in what someone might decide to focus on, but part of it is, what do you think is missing or not, what's not being emphasized enough. And that's part of the reason I went into Islam. It's just, I noticed, back in 2004, 2005, I was significantly, I would say massively more interested in atheist arguments and responding to atheist objections, just because that was my background. So I was more interested in that. But it was, you know, after Nabil became a Christian, and then, sort of seeing the impact it had on him, and then somewhere along the lines, it was like, my goodness, almost every apologist who's coming out is dealing with atheism, and almost no one wants to deal with Islam. So maybe I should just be over here dealing with Islam. Maybe I need to do something that isn't my main interest, because it's significant. But at the same time, I would have to say, what you're interested in is a huge part as well. Unfortunately, I became interested in Islam as I forced myself to study it. I became more interested in it than I was. But you do want to find something that personally interests you, because then when you, you don't want to burn out on something that you're not really interested in. So there could be an argument that you're not interested in, an argument that, so you might love the Kalam cosmological argument and not be interested in ontological arguments. And, well, okay, I'm going to study ontological arguments because someone needs to represent them. Well, if you're not really interested, then you're probably not going to last very long. You're going to get bored with it and not do it. So yeah, so I mean, think about what's missing as far as what niche you want to fill. Figure out something that's missing, and also make sure it's something that you could at least build an interest in, and if you're not already terribly interested in it.
Yeah, I thought something I think that is really interesting is YouTube Shorts, is
Hmm.
because you can get a blast of misinformation from some of the Dawah guys, and then it's really easy to correct, and then to put like a 2 to 3 minute video out on that. So I've done a few of those, and I'm trying to help other Christians. So like, if you listen to this later, send me a message. I'll show you easy ways to get started on your phone, and then you can respond to these shorts. You can show people answers to the arguments. I think the number one offender that I see is Sheikh Uthman, as far as like bad shorts with misinformation or cutting things short. And I don't know, because when I talked to him, we talked about the age of Aisha, and it was really weird. Like, he didn't want to take a position one way or another on it, but he
Hmm.
really wanted to assert hard that Rebecca has to be three, that there's
Yeah.
no other possibility.
Yeah, notice the absurdity. Like, if you read that, there is a 0% chance that Rebecca was 3. If you just read the text, there is a 0% chance that the Bible is saying that Rebecca was 3. We've got dozens and dozens of sources saying that Aisha was 9, but there's a reason they don't want to take a position, because if he says, yes, she was clearly 9, that gets him in trouble with the more liberal interpreters who don't want to acknowledge that Muhammad had sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl. But if he says, she was clearly 18 or 19 or something like that, that gets him into trouble with the Muslims who take their sources seriously, right? Where, wait a minute, you just threw Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim and Sunan Abu Dawud and so on under the bus. So yeah, it's a situation where, you just summarized it. We'll take something that is crystal clear in the Muslim sources, pretend that we just can't figure out what's going on. We'll take something that is actually crystal clear that Rebecca most certainly was not 3. She's called a young woman, and you read about what she's doing. She's clearly, indisputably a young woman. But we'll say she was 3, and say that it has to be that way. And it's just just think about this, because they don't seem to get this. These are guys who claim to respect all prophets, and yet they're saying, in order to deflect attention away from Muhammad, they're actually claiming that Abraham and Isaac plotted together for Isaac to have sex with a 3-year-old. I mean, you're talking a toddler. And so the principle is always, if you tell the truth about our prophet, we'll lie about other prophets. And it's prophets that they claim to believe in. We respect these guys. Really? You're accusing all these guys of being, having a pedophile ring, and you're claiming to respect them. And so all these things serve to illustrate the real heart of Islam. It's not, hey, we have this desire to submit to God and to respect all prophets. It's, we respect one guy, Muhammad, one man, and we will throw absolutely everyone else in history, including every biblical prophet, including God himself. We will throw everyone under the bus for that one guy. And they claim that it's not idolatry.
Yeah, and then just looking at the methodology that's used, you can see the double standard is in how they're looking at all these authentic hadith that came from the prophet's own nephew, all this history, majority of Muslims believing this, but you can't figure out the age. But yet you can look at the Bible and you can smash 4 verses to 5 verses together in the book of Genesis that's got story, time jump, story, time jump. And I always get baffled, because that's the biggest way to tell if somebody is honestly representing the sources fairly, is how they critique someone else versus what they do with their own.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, there's no way for them to represent the texts accurately, because if they handled their own texts accurately, they're going to have to admit everything we say about Muhammad and their book. But if they speak honestly about ours, all the things they say fall apart. Just think. Just on this one issue, Muhammad and Aisha, they'll say, Mary was 11 and Joseph was 90 and Rebecca was 3, and they'll just spout all of this complete nonsense that they cannot defend ever, and it doesn't matter to them. It's very very interesting. It's one thing if you're saying something in jest, or you're mocking or playing around. So I'll give you an example. There are a bunch of Muslim sources which talk about where Muhammad says that he hasn't received revelations in his wife's garments except Aisha. Right? It says only in Aisha's garments, right? And in the sources, it uses 2 different words: thawb, which just means garment. It's like our word garment. It can refer to a man's garment or a woman's garment, just like garment. And it also uses mert, Aisha's mert, which just means dress. It's like our word dress. It normally would refer to a woman. And so you've got the Muslim sources saying that Muhammad was in Aisha's garments, and in his wife's garments. his wife's garments. He was in his wife's garments, but he didn't receive revelations while he was in their garments, but he did receive revelations while he was in Aisha's garment. And therefore, this was a justification for giving her special privileges in the marriage beyond that of his other wives. Now, you'll find all sorts of explanations for this. So one Muslim will come along and say, when it says Aisha's thawb, it's referring to her blanket, or it's referring to her bed, or it's referring to her house. It's like, wait a minute, thawb means garment. Yeah. But what it's really saying is, I was with her, I was close to her. So I mean, I have them saying that their thawb means house, right? which makes no sense. That's not what the word means. Or that it means blanket. At least you're getting closer. You're getting to something, that's some sort of covering or something like that. Or that it means bed. Or that it's I've seen people make the claim that it's a figurative expression that's similar to us saying, I got in her pants or something like that, meaning it's referring to having sex or something like that, which would notice that would be like more disturbing. Like I receive revelations of the Quran while having sex with a little girl. So I'm giving her special privileges because I get the revelations while I'm having sex with my child bride. And so the rest of you need to shut up. I don't get revelations while I'm having sex with you. So anyway, the point here is the word means, again, the two different words that are used. One means garment, one means dress. As far as, what that sounds like it's saying, it sounds like it's saying that he was in her, like he's wearing her clothes or something like that. Sounds creepy. Now, could that mean something else? Could it be a figure of speech? Could this be a figurative way of saying in her, I was in her bed or something like that? Yes, of course it could. I don't really know. And people, centuries ago did have figures of speech that we're not familiar with and so on. I'd have to say, plenty of examples of that to really, put my foot down and say, okay, this is what it really means. So I'll use something like that and I'll say it and I'll keep saying it. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of joking. I'm kind of just making fun of your prophet for being a weird creepazoid, because no matter what the situation there is, it's some sort of weird, creepy situation. And so I'll toss that out there. But the point is, if you said, David, and are you really firmly convinced that our prophet was going around in Aisha's nightie? I would have to say, no, not really. I mean, that's what the passage sounds like. But could there be something figurative or something like that? Yeah, sure. But notice, following their methodology, every weird, creepy thing you can find, you should interpret in the weirdest, creepiest possible sense. Another similar example, when Muhammad says, bring me the boy, and he sucks on his tongue and stuff like that. That sounds really creepy. Their response will be, hey, it's a hot Arab desert, and it was just common then for people to suck on each other's tongues for moisture and so on. That still sounds gross and disgusting and creepy and so on. But the point is, it doesn't have to be sexual in nature. It doesn't have to be anything like a pervert is doing. It just has to be some weird, disgusting, pretty unhygienic custom of Muhammad sucking on little boys' tongues or something. So notice, if I had to really put my foot down saying, hey, Muhammad's molesting this kid, I wouldn't, if I'm speaking seriously, I would not say he's molesting that kid. I'll just say that's disgusting. That's disgusting that he's sucking on a boy's tongue. But notice, if we adopt their methodology, I mean, you have way better, way better evidence that Muhammad's molesting this boy than you do that Rebecca was a 3-year-old. Right? But they'll just stomp their foot. No, three. Isaac's a pedophile. Abraham's a pedophile. They're all pedophiles. We believe in these guys. We respect them. Just for out of consistency. If you're going to do that, if that's your method, we will go to the Bible, and we will find someone who is clearly and indisputably a young woman. But we're just going to say she's 3. Why? Because it doesn't list her age. So we can say whatever we want. We're just going to call her a 3-year-old. And and then no matter what evidence you give them, they will not listen. They will just, nope, she's 3. Why? Because they need that in order to defend against criticisms of Muhammad. They have to have something like that. So they're just going to say it, and it doesn't matter what the evidence is to them. But if they're going to do that, then guys, there should be no holds barred when we're talking about their sources. It should be, Muhammad was not just a child molester messing around with Aisha. He was a child molester molesting little boys, and he was prancing around in his child bride's nightie. And do not tell me that there may have been some figure of speech, or this may be figurative or something like that. You guys are going to the Bible, and you're saying things that can't possibly be true, and acting like they're indisputably true, and we're just ashamed, and that's why we're the ones lying about it. And so I have to say, this happens over and over again, but they create their own enemies. You know what I mean? They create their own enemies in that when people when they come at you like that, and they're clearly just that no respect for biblical prophets, even though they claim to believe in them, they are clearly just thoroughly happy to lie and deceive and manipulate in order to get their way. Don't go and lie about their sources and so on, but it makes people much less inclined to give the benefit of the doubt, right? There's all kinds of situations. Like, I can't give the benefit of the doubt on the age of Aisha. There's too much. There's too much. Can I give the benefit of the doubt on whether Muhammad was wearing Aisha's nightie? Yes, I can give the benefit of the doubt there. I said, yes, maybe it does mean something else. I don't know. The point is, they make me not want to give the benefit of the doubt. They make me want to just, nope, he's sucking on tongues. He's a pervert, disgusting pervert, sucking on little kids' tongues. He's a disgusting pedophile. And then we act like that, and they get mad. They get, how dare you talk about, wait, you're calling Abraham and Isaac pedophiles. They've got a pedophile grooming gang. And you have zero evidence of that, but you're saying it just because you're ashamed of your own prophet. And so it makes people more aggressive and less inclined to give the benefit of the doubt. And then they get mad when people are like that. It's like, dude, you guys did this to yourselves. You guys did this to your own prophet. Now they're kind of stuck with it, and it's fun to watch.
And so what you're saying too is that if you are interacting with a Muslim who's fair to the Christian sources, sorry, dog just ran across. So yeah, if you're talking with the Muslim who's fair to the Christian sources, then you will in turn be charitable as well. But then as an example, when they're not fair, you show them how their scriptures can be made to look foolish or in bad context.
Yeah, I'm saying you would modify your approach based on the person you're talking to. And this is true in all kinds of ways. If you're talking to someone who's really aggressive, that could send you in a couple different directions. You might want to be nice, but you might want to be very nice in order to contrast how he's not, right? So, there you might want to be setting an example. Two, you might want to just leave, say, hey, this is not the kind of conversation I want to be in. This guy's, an arrogant, condescending jerk. I don't want to be in that conversation. I'd rather talk to someone who's, a bit more sincere. Or you might want to sort of escalate your own approach, thinking to yourself, this is a person who respects force and aggression, and therefore I need to adapt accordingly, because he's not going to listen if I'm not. This person might not listen if I'm being gentle and nice. He might only listen if I put his prophet in his place, and so on. And so, there are all kinds of issues to take into consideration. But yes, in general, if someone is being thoughtful and fair, then you certainly want to be that way as well. And in general, that's how you want to be. When someone is being horribly deceptive, you can't even call it uncharitable, because there's no way to think that she was 3 if you actually read the text. It makes zero sense. But if you're going to take that approach, fine. Do not complain. Do not complain when I call Muhammad a pedophile, when I say that he molested both girls and boys. Don't complain when I say that he's a cross-dresser and was prancing around in his child bride's nightie. Don't complain about any of that, because I have far more evidence of everything I'm saying than what you have when you talk about, Rebecca or Mary and Joseph or any of that stuff. But yeah, the goal is for them to eventually get the point. Like, oh, maybe if we want people to be very charitable with our prophet, we shouldn't be going around slandering everyone in history.
And we have right around 5 minutes left. I'm going to keep this video nice and short. So if somebody wants to hit a quick question or two in the chat, we can throw them out to David. David, do you have any debates or videos coming up? I know last time we talked about the website with the online Quran, which I thought was useful. I got to use that a little bit, I think, last week.
Yeah, so that, I mean, we've still got some more work to do with that. So that's the Quran.com. But yeah, we're going to be uploading lots of video content. It's basically the relevant verses. We want videos on everything. We have sort of like general videos dealing with various topics and stuff like that, but we want like lots of individual verses just on individual videos on specific verses and stuff like that. And then also there's going to be lots of feedback as far as what's working or what's confusing and so on. So that's going to be building up. But yeah, so there's that. I think I have a discussion coming up in a couple weeks on Cameron Bertuzzi's channel, where I'm talking with a Muslim scholar. We're going to be discussing Christian and Muslim perspectives on the crucifixion. And then next month, I think I've got a couple debates with Modern Day Debate. Nothing is officially set up. Nothing's officially set up, but he's asked me to do 2 debates at his April DebateCon in DebateCon 2. I was at DebateCon 1. I think it's DebateCon
Oh
2.
yeah, well, you get to go live and you get to interact with them in person.
Yeah, so I think I have, again, this isn't official. He's trying to arrange it, seeing what everyone agrees on and stuff like that. I think I'm going to have a debate with a Muslim and a debate with an atheist, or it might be a 2-on-2. It might be a 2-on-2 debate, Christians and atheists. But yeah, that's stuff that's coming up.
And then question from 100, it says, David, is there any debate in specific that you would want to see? It can be between an atheist, Muslim, Christian, etc. Just what is your, the debate you are most interested in watching now?
It kind of depends, because sometimes you want to watch debates for different reasons. Sometimes you want to see your guy just crush another guy, or you really want to see the absolute best proponents of an issue giving their perspective. So, people would love to see a full debate between William Lane Craig and Richard Dawkins, but that would be a massacre. It'd be a massacre, and that's why Dawkins won't have an official formal debate. He knows he'd get crushed by William Lane Craig. But yeah, so it kind of depends. If you're dealing with a particular argument, like the fine tuning or something like that, then yeah, you'd want like the best Christian guy defending that versus, the best non-Christian guy to really give the best perspective. So yeah, I would like to see, Dawkins, which now he's past his prime. So it's not even, when he got crushed, you can think, okay, well, he's really, really old. He's old. I'm almost 47. I'm past my prime, right? I am not as sharp as I was when I was, 30 or something like that. And William Lane Craig is, he's old now, but for some reason his faculties have held up really, really well over the years. But at the end of the day, I would like to see Zakir Naik debate anybody, like one actual debater in his entire life, because he's a guy who figured out, whenever it was, 1990s or whatever, he's a guy who figured out this was planned, this was deliberate. He realized a long, long time ago that he could go and debate two Christians that no one's ever heard of, that aren't debaters, and that his fans would not know the difference between him taking those guys on and taking on, the champions of Christianity. He realized that. He planned it. It was deliberate. He debated two guys that no one's ever heard of, and then went to his fans. I've crushed the Christian debaters. And it's like, what are you talking about? You never faced William Lane Craig. You never faced basically anyone. I mean, Jay Smith, anyone who's been any of the actual Christian debaters. So up in Canada, there's Tony Costa, and in Australia, Samuel Green. But anyone who's an actual Christian debater, James White, you've never faced any of them. So why not? And why haven't his Muslim followers called on him to face anyone? And matter of fact, I know they've said that, because he's made videos saying David Wood is not capable of debating Zakir Naik, and he'll give reasons why he's not debating actual Christian debaters. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'd just like to see him debate one time, face an actual experienced Christian debater, because it was, hey, let me face two guys no one's ever heard of, and then I'll spend the rest of my life saying everyone is beneath me and they're not worthy of facing me because I'm too awesome. And yeah.
No, and I appreciate you coming on and joining me again. As people can see, I'm doing this guerrilla style because I ended up having a lot of people at my house tonight, which was unusual.
That happens.
David, once again, I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And then let me kick this outro. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. I haven't gotten a catchy way to end the video yet, other than next time.
I go hard in the paint, yeah, homie, I'm a saint.